Yeah, Doug.
Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm Sal Interdonato. We have a very special podcast tonight with the 1980 members of the 1985 Army football team, Peach Bowl champions, joining us. A bunch of members from their secondary. This podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Don't you wish you had some secrets to help you get an edge on your business competition? Wouldn't it be great if someone could solve technology and personal challenges at your company that you did not have time or expertise to fix on your own? There is a solution. Higher Echelon is a world-class consulting firm that trains employees in sports psychology secrets that drastically improve work performance. Founder Dr. Joe Ross is retired Army who played and later coached for the cadets and puts that experience to use for his clients. Higher Echelon helps organizations shave hundreds of hours off work time and save and make more money by walking them through technology transformations, including organization-wide management. You don't have to go at it alone. You don't have to stay stuck. Higher Echelon is your go-to trusted partner for organizational excellence. Go to higherechelon.com. That's HIGHERECHELON.com or call 866-469-9945 today and take your company to the next level. Go higher and go Army. Welcome, guys. This is something that I've been looking forward to all day. Chatting with the 1985 team and JT. It started with a direct messaging you yesterday, and originally wanting you to just come on, but you insisted on bringing on your teammates tonight for this chat, which is awesome. We did a 1995 chat about a month or two ago, and went great. Welcome, guys, to the podcast, and if you want to introduce yourselves, going from the top down, and we'll get rolling.
I'm not sure who's on the top, Sal, but I'll
Marshall.
start. Oh, I'll go ahead and go. It's JT here, but Sal, thanks for having us on. It's awesome, and you're awesome. All the reporting you do on Army football, and now starting up Black Knight Nation. This is pretty incredible. And I wanted to say something here, right up front. That's why I cut in. Coach Johnny Burnett was supposed to join us. I just got an email from him. He's on the website, so I just sent him a note and said answer Ed Diller's email. But we're definitely technologically challenged here. So my name's JT Thompson, class of 1986. Played football through the 85 season with fellow defensive backs here. Tried to get Coach Johnny Burnett on the net with us. I can give a shout out to Roy Tomlinson. He was one of our offensive linemen. He's over in Tokyo right now, up early in the morning watching this thing. So Roy, hello in Tokyo.
Nice.
So, but I'll give a shout out to Joe Ross too. So I just retired from the Army after 34 years of active duty service, and they send generals to a transition course. The guy who runs the course is Joe Ross, Dr. Joe Ross. I remember Cadet Joe Ross won the Black Lion Award, a tough ass fullback. Now I got to call him doctor, but he trains retiring generals how to survive in the civilian world. So shout out to Joe Ross too. I don't know if he's watching here tonight, but he was one tough ass fullback, and I remember watching him do that. I'm gonna quit talking about myself. I just want to say, the neatest thing about this is the Army Football Brotherhood. This is over 38 years ago. I met these other guys, defensive backs. And none of us were worth a damn, but our 40 time has gotten better in legend. We're all superheroes. I think we were all All-American, but the most touching thing is this brotherhood and staying in touch with these guys day in and day out. And Sal, when you called last night, I sent these guys a note, and within 5 minutes they all responded and said, "Hell yeah, we're going to do this together, just like we did it back in the day, playing football, doing it together." The Swarm. So I'll stop there and let one of these other great Americans talk.
I guess.
Go ahead.
So Kirk Gutierrez, I'm actually played a little different position, played A-man and rover back, but started as a DB and feel honored to be part of the crew here. All these guys are my dear friends and brothers. Can't tell you how much they mean to me. It's just crazy. The further away I get from school, the more important they become. I think it's just growing up together and in our formative years. It's just fantastic to be able to stay in touch with these guys. Shout out also to Joe Ross, who's I'm actually in business with. So I'm very honored to be on this thing. But I just tell you, these guys made a lot of great things happen, despite how slow and small they were. It's crazy, that they were able to step up and do the things that they did back in the day. So look forward to hearing more about having more discussion about the '85 season. What was that?
Can you guys hear me okay?
It's kind of it's getting there. Why don't we have Steve go? Steve, why don't you introduce yourself? Steve's muted right now, so
Maybe Matt Buckner, huh? You try talking, Matt?
Can you hear me?
we're good,
Yep.
Matt. Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, Matt?
All right. So Matt Buckner, I was number 22, defensive cornerback, and it was a great segue. Appreciate it, Kurt. Slow, no athletic ability, couldn't jump, tackle, any of that stuff. So that's
Tackle.
true. That's about the only thing I could do is tackle, right? So tackle them low. That was my motto, right? So anyway, it's a humbling experience to be on the call with all you guys, and I just thought we're great. It's interesting. I was thinking about this after JT called, that we were all from different states, except Striff and JT both were from Texas, but all the rest of us were from all over the country. But we were so close. It just goes to show how diversity. We pull together, and it was great playing with with these guys, and they meant so much to me at the time. And so anyway, I was glad just to be on the field with those guys and get in the pile if I could anytime I was allowed to.
Absolutely. How about our traveling, Daryl? Are you back on, Daryl?
Daryl's back on. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we're good.
I can hear Bruce Springsteen, Glory Days playing in the background. It was a lot of fun a lot of years ago. And hey, Buck, if you remember Coach Robertson, their only football players came from the states of Texas and California, so they didn't even bother to recruit in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And he would remind Doug and I of that at every team breakfast before the game. So yeah, there's something to be said about playing together as a team, and I thought we did that well. We had to, but we did it extremely well, and it was bend not break. Remember, so it was all good. It was a lot of fun, a lot of stories. I think we should talk better than anybody, and that psychological warfare, as JT will suggest, is pretty important. And I think we were all American at that. But good to talk to you guys again. That brotherhood that you mentioned. A strong indication of that is if you don't talk for a couple of years, but when you get on the phone, it seems like you just talked yesterday. That's a pretty good sign that brotherhood is still alive and well. So it's good to be on with you guys.
No doubt. This podcast was all about bringing you guys together. Maybe you guys haven't talked to each other at length that recently. So this is a great time to bring you guys back. That 1985 team were, like I said before, were Peach Bowl champions, 8-3, defeated Illinois in the bowl game 31-29, an Illinois team led by Jack Trudeau, and opened the season 5-0. And JT, when we were talking last night, I thought it was I think everybody on this podcast played in that Japan game, right? I mean, that's kind of unique. Were you guys like the only that was the only Army game ever played in Japan, or no?
I think that's the only Army game played west of Hawaii. and Roy Tomlinson's there right now. But that was the Mirage Bowl in 1984. We played Montana, and everybody wonders, why'd you play Montana? Well, the ambassador from the United States to Japan happened to be a Montana grad. And I think he had some lineage, West Point lineage in his family bloodlines too. So we played in Tokyo Stadium, the Olympic Stadium, 64,000 people. And it was jam-packed. And it was a wonderful game. It was a lot of great experiences. These guys may want to talk about them. But the Japanese people didn't really understand American football very well. So they put half the fans in black and gold on one side and the other half in orange and white on the other side. And they were supposed to root for, each team. But every time there was a big, long, incompleted pass, they just see this pass flying through the air, and they would scream and yell. So they were yelled for Montana the whole game. They were slinging the ball, and we rushed for over 600 yards, but they probably passed for about 600. So for us as defensive backs, we didn't come out well in that game. We won the game, but it was a bad day. But Buckner got his only interception ever in that game.
Thanks to JT's tip.
What do you guys remember about that experience before we get into the 1985 season?
Yeah, after the game, walking down the streets and going to a bathhouse following Coach Young. So that's I remember that. It was a shocker. Fortunately we won, but it was pretty good time being able to have a hot bath after the game.
We had a lot of really nice meals there. There was a lot of seafood and stuff, but offensive linemen, they need steak, they need meat, they need get a lot of protein from seafood, but they need to have the mass. So I think a lot of them went to McDonald's after every meal, the linemen. And Bob Berry, rest in peace, our officer representative, Colonel Bob Berry, who's the head of the law department, escorted them down there, but I think he snuck a Big Mac too.
Hey, I seem to remember us having Kobe beef for the first time. Real tender, caramelized steak. I just remember that being part of the meal. Second part, maybe it was just for like the guys that are trying to increase, their weight.
It was during sumo season, and we were on these Japanese buses going from hotel to practice to stadium. And they had TVs in all the buses, which in the early 1980s, that was a big deal. And so we were all watching sumo wrestling. And I just remember, as funny as heck, Coach Young kept us pretty serious, focused on the game. But there were certainly a lot of distractions being in Tokyo for a week.
It's crazy to think that that's the only game Army's ever played outside of the United States, so to speak. Now, the 85 season, when we were talking last night a little bit, JT, you talked about basically, okay, these are guys that played in the secondary with you, and how integral was he's not here yet, but Coach Burnett in getting you guys to play together, in that season. And a lot of you guys, I guess you were recruited by Coach Burnett too, so you had, I guess, a long relationship with him, your career playing football, so.
Yeah, Johnny Burnett. I mean, he's like a national treasure. I think he coached at West Point from 79 through 95, 96 time frame. Came from the Air Force Academy. He recruited Texas and California. He's from Texas, played football in California. So a lot of the players for, over the course of a decade and a half were recruited by Johnny Burnett. Johnny Burnett would give us a chance. You might not be the fastest guy around, may not have the most athletic ability, but what he appreciated was toughness, teamwork, playing smart, and he could mold players that didn't really have the athletic ability to play Division 1A at a big university and make us play together and get that synergistic effect. He's going to join us here. I just got a note from his wife. She handles she's his commo officer. She said he's on a meeting with class of 90, same night, same time. Your meeting is on my phone right now. He'll join as soon as he can. So, but, Doug Pavick almost got cut as a sophomore. And Coach Burnett was the guy that stood up and kept them. And, Doug ended up being the guy going to East-West Shrine game and leading the team in interceptions our senior year. So I'll let some of these other guys talk about Coach B.
Doug, what do you remember how he stuck up for you there, and how I guess you're forever grateful for that, right?
Yeah, can you guys hear me, Ed? Can you hear me?
We're good.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, no, I missed the beginning of it, but appreciate you having us over for this get together. I haven't seen these guys. None of us have been on together anywhere for probably 20 years at least. So it's good to see everybody. I heard you guys talking about the Tokyo game, and one of the things I remember was when we came back from that game and what happened prior to the Navy game that year. If you guys remember this, we came back from Tokyo. We had 2 weeks before this Navy game. I just wanted to hit this before I go on. Jim Young came into the meeting room on a Monday, and just was so pissed off that we allowed 35 points, but came in and hit the table so hard it went flying across the room. Everybody, we didn't know what had happened. It sounded like somebody shot a gun off. Anyway, about the Montana game. Yeah, one of the challenges we had, JT talked about it. So, Minnesota's not a big state for football. Daryl came from Wisconsin, so we're kind of the Midwest guys, and everybody else was from the South or West Coast or so. And but John Burnett, if John Burnett is, if he made a group of average athletes play as well as we did, then you got to give him a lot of credit. So I know he's going to overcome these shortcomings on everybody, on this group of guys. Especially Buck.
Kurt, what do you remember about that, the start of that 1985 season, and Coach Burnett, just in his,
Well, so what I remember very specifically, and these guys are going to have to step up and remind me exactly specifically what we said. But as a group of seniors, we got together and we said, "Hey guys, this is our turn. We're the leaders here, and we got to make sure that everyone toes the line." I'm trying to remember that conversation, but it got a little bit threatening with us standing in front of, as seniors, in front of the rest of the team, saying, "Guys, step up. We believe in you. Believe in us. Our coaches have a great plan." And Burnett was one of those guys, along with the rest of the coaches, who along with the entire team, we expected to win every single game going into the game. There was no thought of, I hope I don't lose, or we're not trying to, we're trying. It was every game. We're focused on winning. And in the few times we did lose that season, it's because we took our eye off the ball and we had self-doubt. But for the most part, it was one of those things where the coaches had this vision, the senior leadership had the vision, and this group right here we're talking to was really the folks, leading the charge in terms of aggressiveness, in terms of discipline, in terms of just leaving every single thing out on the field, every single play. And you look at what way we thought, pride, poise, team. Every single play that these guys played was just like it was the last play they were ever going to play. And that was what Coach expected of us, Coach Burnett. Don't think about what happened last play. Don't think about what's coming. Be here, be now. Make it happen. And because of that and the aggressiveness, it didn't matter if that the receiver outweighed Matt Buckner by 100 pounds or could jump over his head. Matt was going to take him out as soon as he got a chance. And if he didn't get a chance to take him out before the whistle was blown, he tried after. But from our perspective, I think the DBs were And again, I consider myself part of the DBs, even though I moved to quasi outside linebacker. But I still was I was still with these guys and trained and worked with them. And I know that discipline came from Burnett, get on the right hash, angle tackles, just discipline drilled in every single moment of every single practice. And so when they stepped on the field, they had already played that game already 100 times in their mind. They had already visualized it. They've seen the films. And that made just being part of that team the funnest thing in the world, just working so hard and then achieving that vision was just exciting. And these guys, like my brothers, you depend upon them, you rely on them. And it's very much, JT will tell you, it's very much like combat, right? If you miss an assignment, somebody else gets hurt, right? So everybody was watching each other's backs all the time. So that's Johnny Burnett and the coaching staff. They were all focused, and they helped us focus. But more importantly, they believed in us, and then we believed in ourselves, and we were able to push that through all the class. So that's what I remember very specifically about starting our senior year, coming off of a winning season, going into the next winning season. As they tagged that line, the winning continues at Army. So
yeah,
I
was going to ask Daryl about the expectations coming off, a Cherry Bowl champion, winning the Cherry Bowl the previous year. What were the expectations like for the team before the 85 season?
If I might, I had an opportunity to get to know, Coach Monken pretty well for the few years I was back in the West Point area. And we had a conversation about this, and I remember telling him that, there was something, there was something after that season, and when we began, to Kurt's point, that there was just this belief, that we belonged, maybe for the first time, but it certainly started with the year before. Because it was a winning season. But I think for the first time in a long time, the team believed, that we belonged on the field with these teams that we lined up against. And what I told Monken was we believed that we were actually going to win every game, that we had the better plan, the better intelligence, the better, tactics to exploit, the matchups and things like that. So belief. Remember that thing that JY used to say, belief plus action equals success, and belief was a strong force for us. But I can go back to Burnett. I think of all of us, I probably had the most contentious relationship with him. I don't know why. There was always this healthy discontent with us, and I think in part because when I got there, Steve, I don't know if you remember, but we were playing behind Mike Williams and Tommy Anderson, and I was playing behind Steve Striffler, these phenomenal football players from Texas. And I was this kid from Wisconsin that was a baseball player, that just happened to go to a football tryout one day and met Doug and some other people. And I guess we got noticed. And I remember even after our plebe year, Doug and I were thinking about quitting and playing football, and Doug says, "Hey, let's just hang on until they post the results, for special teams our sophomore year, and if we're on the list, we'll play football, and if we're not, then we'll go play baseball." Sure as shit enough, him and I and probably JT and others were on the kickoff team for that first home game, and we had, the rest is history. But
Net squad, right?
Net squad, yeah.
Kurt's nose probably still is bloody because he was the tip of the wedge, But we had an abundance of confidence, I think, and it built over time. And I think at the end of that 84 season, it was high. We expected to go undefeated and started out that way at 5-0. And when we went to Notre Dame, Alan Pinkett and Tim Brown and the rest of those guys, hey, we were there to win, and we almost did. And you imagine what that season would have been like, how it might have been different had we gone 6-0 after beating Notre Dame. But
didn't they come back? Didn't they call back 2 touchdowns on that? In that game?
Scotty Spellman stepped out of bounds. But, that's one of those things that obviously we all carried into our careers, and everybody on the phone has been successful in the military or in business. But, there's something to be said about being confident and competent and being team-oriented and a strong leader. The world will step aside for the man who knows where he's going, and there was no shortage of confidence. I think belief in Johnny B and JY and the rest of the coaching staff. They did everything they could just to instill that and feed that and coach that up. And I think that was a big reason why we were successful. Pause there.
Yeah. Matt, what are your memories of the start of the 1985 season and the way you guys were able to get off winning your first 5 games?
Yeah, I agree with what these guys have said 100%. The piece that I was thinking of, like last night after JT invited us on and stuff, is, and nobody's talked about it, is practice. Again, what practice? It was really the practice. I mean, we practice hard, and the DBs, Coach Burnett, and the guys before us and stuff. There's discipline there. You get on the field, you had your chin straps on, and you were on the move. We didn't walk on the field at all. When we were exhausted by the end of practice, except for JT and Striff, who ran like a gazelle all the time. The rest of us were worn out. I could barely do anything after practice, and even the night before games, we would get together in our hotel rooms, and Coach Burnett would give us the old projector, the projector, and we'd get in somebody's hotel room, and before and after, what was that, Miami Vice, we'd watch the films of the previous games and stuff, so we, like I think it was Kurt said, before we even went out there on the kickoff or receiving the kickoff, we were ready to go mentally and physically, psychologically and everything. So that's a piece that I don't think anybody talked about, but the practice was really helped us be prepared for battle and be prepared for war.
Yeah, well, I look at like the way Monken runs practices now. I think they're probably similar to what you guys have went through, and just it's nonstop. There's really not a lot of breaks. It's pretty physical. When it's the right time to be, and it's paid off for them, right? I mean, this team looks like you guys were ready to play every time they step on the field. I mean, I don't know if do you see that? Do you see a lot of that now in the team that reminds you back to where you guys were at West Point and on the practice fields, or no?
Yeah. The difference is they're all rocked up. They're big and strong and fast.
Yeah, I think teams are going to win when they hang on to the ball. They are disciplined enough where they don't have those stupid penalties, and when they get knocked down, they get back up fast and they're aggressive and they go after it every single play. And you could just sense that, like that extra bit of drive, whether someone's trying to run the ball forward or stop someone attack. You could see their legs chopping in place and pushing to the very last second till the whistle blows. But that's what I think, the same level of discipline that we had, I see that reflected. I'm not saying that that's the only thing. Yeah, Daryl D, you're right, man. They are bigger, stronger, faster than we were, man for man. In terms of mental toughness, I think that's the ticket, and that's what made us, that pushed us across that belief line. We believed in ourselves. We were mentally tough. But it's that discipline that they're showing right now that I think continues to carry over and continues to be the theme in their winning. When there's less penalties, when they don't fumble the ball, and when you sense that aggressiveness. And I think everybody here, when you watch the games, when you could just feel that aggressiveness and pushing the ball forward or stopping the other team. Those are the three things I think that is going to continue to have Monken winning. That shows that he's got a great group of kids, that he's got them ready and riled and disciplined to go on the field and kick ass and take names. It's awesome to see that, and it is reflective of the way I felt. So it kind of gets the juices flowing. I wonder how the other guys feel about that. when I see some of them run on the field, I feel for 'em. I feel great for them.
Yeah, Kurt, you're exactly right. I had the privilege of being the commandant starting on Coach Monken's second year. Got to spend 2 years there with him. And he certainly brings out the intelligence, the toughness, the discipline, and the teamwork and the best out of all those players. I mean, he's a master at it. I'm just going to tell a story. So it was like March time frame. They were doing some drills early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning. And, I heard about these as the commandant. It was cold as heck up there. Mikey, might have been February. It was called a towel drill. There'd be a circle, but they'd put the towel out and two people would get out there and they'd fight over the towel. And so I'm thinking, I could still do that. No pads on. And so I sent Coach Monken a note. I said, hey, can I come to towel drill tomorrow? And I'll get out there and I'll go against one of the players on towel drill. He goes, he replied right away. He goes, this wouldn't be good if you got hurt. He goes, why don't you come watch this first? And I'm thinking, what can be so tough about grabbing a towel? You might lose. I didn't care about losing. So I went out there next morning. I watched it. They were getting after it. I mean, like 5:30 in the morning. And after practice, he's like, well, so what do you think? I said, I'll just keep watching, Coach. I mean, we got such a great masterpiece out of that guy. I mean, I'm so glad that he's there. And I remember, I told Sal last night, General Odierno, the Chief of Staff of the Army, interviewed the 5 football candidates. I don't want to talk about the other 4, but I was in Afghanistan as a 1-star general. I get this call at 2 a.m. My aide goes, the Chief of Staff of the Army needs to speak to you. And I'm like, my God, what could this be? Either I'm getting fired or something. He goes, hey, you used to be an Army football player. He goes, I'm going to call some of you senior leaders that played football, like Tim McGuire, Paul Ostrowski, Darrell Williams, there are a few other ones. He goes, we're going to hire this guy named Jeff Monken. I just want you to know he was in my office in the Pentagon. Was probably not the guy that you were rooting for. You didn't know anything about him. But he goes, he's absolutely the right guy. And this was General Odierno in December of 2013. And I was like, holy cow. Chief of Staff of the Army called me. And if he's got faith in him, I got faith in him. And that was a great decision that Bob Caslin and Ray Odierno, both former Army football players, made as senior leaders in our Army. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. That's a great story. And I remember hearing the buzz around, who was going to get hired after Rich Ellerson was let go. And, Monken's name came out and you just looked at his resume and, he's a Navy guy, right? He was a Navy guy. So people were like, what? Can you hire a Navy guy at West Point? Is that going to work? I don't think it's ever been, to my knowledge, it hasn't been done before. I could be wrong. And now you look at it and it turns out to be, I mean, the program was resurrected under Jeff Monken. I think that's my word for it. You guys might have another term for it, but man, now it's the consistency is there. Pretty much every season from once they started winning, it just kind of snowballed pretty much for them. JT, talk a little bit about just being a commandant at West Point and just having that relationship with the cadets and the football players too. I mean, that's a unique to be a former Army football player and then to go back in that high position and to have that experience.
Well, I tell people, I was like, I don't know why I got paid to do that job. And Darrell had cadets there, children there, son and daughter at the time. But having the ability to go back and do that was the joy of a lifetime and was a lot of fun. It's not a hard job. It's frustrating and difficult in different ways. And, as a commandant, you put the M in the military, into USMA. Sometimes that doesn't fit very well with football, but having a guy like Coach Monken there and Boo Corrigan as the athletic director made that a lot of fun. But, seeing those players, I'm still in touch with a lot of those football players from that era. Jeff Bacon, I mean, the list go on and on. I hate even, Chris Carnegie wore number 14. And, I tell him I was the real number 14. And he runs twice as fast as I did and had some pick sixes in Yankee Stadium and stuff like that. But, is just so uplifting every day, waking up, being around those young men and those young women. And they all sign up. None of them have to be there. None of them are forced to go there. They know the hardships they're getting into, and they volunteer to do that stuff. That's why our nation's in great hands. People ask me sometimes, what keeps you up at night? I say nothing. We still got young people signing up to do stuff like this. And as a matter of fact, we got to turn some people away. Daryl can talk from perspective as a parent now, but I can't speak from the perspective of a parent. But I'm just so proud of all those cadets that are there now, and the ones that I was out there with are all now company commanders out in the Army, doing the heavy lifting for our nation, and absolutely incredible experience.
Yeah, Daryl, what just being a grad and having children go to attend West Point, what's that experience like?
Well, it's a joy. I mean, pride, and interestingly, we didn't have a military family because I got out right after Desert Storm. But there's something about the institution and knowing one of your parents went there, and there's a natural affinity, I think, that pulls you back there. So it certainly didn't discourage it, and once they chose, encouraged it. But it was a terrific environment, and obviously, JT and General Caslin and General Williams, are partially responsible for that culture that exists there. And I think it's better now than it was when we were there. It just keeps getting smarter and better, to create leaders of character. And I think we did a good job of preparing our kids to be successful there, and they both have thrived. My youngest son, though, JT, knows this, so does Kurt, challenge the system. So JT, he's a Ranger in 2nd Battalion up in Washington, and he'll do that for the rest of this year before he gets to go back to West Point. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, when JT was there, his house, the commandant's house, was open, to his classmates and their kids and anyone from Texas, and it was always a nice environment Tim and Holly created there. Always made us feel welcome when we were there, and we just knew as a parent that our kids were in good hands while they were there, and they were going to leave prepared to be successful officers in the Army. So very, very grateful for that. I think back if you would ask Buck and Doug and Steve, when we were cadets, if you had to choose one of us that was going to become a general officer and come back and be the commandant, which one? And we all would have said JT. I mean, he was on that path back then even.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, what can you say just about being a West Point grad and the pride that there is being a West Point grad, and just following now the football program the way it is?
Yeah, I was an Army brat too. There's several of us on the call, Doug and JT and Kurt and I were all Army brats, so my dad, ROTC guy, he wasn't a West Point guy, and but just having that opportunity and going to West Point, I always wanted to. I didn't get recruited like these guys. All these guys were highly recruited. I never even went to West Point. They wouldn't invite me up there. So, I showed up at West Point for the first time and met these guys that, on the day before our day. But I was proud to have been a son of a Army officer and just come out of West Point and go into infantry like my dad was and stuff, and Airborne Ranger, and seeing Kurt in Ranger School, feeding me blueberry pancakes in the mountain phase and stuff. He may not remember that, but I sure did. But real proud to serve my country. But I was like Daryl, and after Desert Storm and stuff, I got out. I did my 5 years and got out as well. But had a son and a daughter-in-law, as a matter of fact, that went in, and so they went through ROTC. They were ROTC, and so they went to Duke, ROTC, graduated, got married after that, and they served, and they've since then gotten out. So proud that the legacy continues, at least for three generations in my household.
Absolutely. Doug, what's your West Point story? How did you get to West Point, and how your pride as a grad?
Yeah, well, one of the things I would highlight is how significant an effect sports have on the attitude and the experience at the academy. The first couple of years for all of us there were pretty tough. We were 2-9, 2-9, and every football is a big deal there. Last year we had success. It changed the experience that I know all of us had at the academy, and matter. I mean, that just to be part of a program that turned around from 2-9 to 9-3. The core of cadets. JT, I know when he was probably there as a commandant, the program turned around. You feel that everybody's happy. Just a totally different experience than going through the academy. So, but my experience there was really a good experience. I enjoyed it. People you meet, and the experiences that you have there, particularly in this case with the 85. I'll pause there.
Gotcha. Let's if you guys don't mind, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that 85 season. And like you said, you start 5-0, and then you go to Notre Dame. And of course, I should have done my homework with the Notre Dame team you were playing against. I always, even talking to the 95 team, they had the experiences too about, game playing Notre Dame also. What was that for you? Like you said, Kurt, you believed when you stepped on the field that you were going to beat Notre Dame. What was there any aura left before or after that, once the game was over and once the final score?
Yeah, that one is actually one of those things where I may sound like a sore loser because we had 2 touchdowns called back, and it was we would have won. I think mentally and emotionally we played right to the bitter end, and you could ask these guys. I think that shutting down Alan Pinkett in many respects, going against guys that outweighed us by, 40, 50, 60 pounds and being able to stand right there toe to toe with them was my memory. And I was just, when the final second clicked off the clock, I was like, no, we're not done yet. Not done. And, and I think about each one of the guys that we're talking to, and especially it's the type of attitude we had going on to the field where we said, our expectations were to win. And these guys you're talking to, Doug and JT, all the guys here, and their missions in combat and business, it's the same attitude. They walk on to the field. They walk on with their unit. They expect to win. There's no thought of, maybe I won't lose. It's like I'm going out there as a winner. And that, those little subtle moments have translated to big time opportunities for many other people to see that type of attitude. JT, leading divisions and corps, and I actually, Doug, I remember when you're out there in Iraq leading his task force. They all had to that winning attitude. And so when you look back at that one game that was our first loss of the season, we were quite frankly surprised. What happened? And I'd love to hear from the other guys, especially at the end of the game, because everybody played tough. It still sticks in my craw, those 2 callbacks,
Yeah.
Anyone else have some memories?
Yeah, I just jump in and on that game. We were so certain we were going to win that game, and so certain we thought we would win every game. I think the Notre Dame game just took the air out of the sails a little bit. We lost a couple big games after that. You guys recall Air Force and Navy. And Air Force was a top 10 ranked team that year. Probably the best team won. So we lost, after that Notre Dame game, we were so convinced we were going to win the game that I think it really took the wind out of us a little bit and hurt us down. We made the last season, but we lost a couple of tough games after that.
Yeah, the Notre Dame game, the 95 team played them at Giant Stadium. And believe it or not, when you play Notre Dame at Giant Stadium, it's a home game for Notre Dame. Our sophomore year, we went there and lost to them 42-0, and we never kicked off once. They let us receive again in the second half. But that was some humble pie for us in the 85 season, going to South Bend and playing Notre Dame there. And we played them tough, but we weren't happy. We ate some humble pie. That's for sure. But I go back to that 95 team. I was in Giant Stadium when they played. They dominated Notre Dame from start to finish and lost right at the very end. And Ron Lashinsky getting tackled by a little skinny cornerback, which, on the 1 foot line before we scored, and then would have won the game. I mean, I cried that day with the 95 team. I was a TAC officer. I was a captain at West Point. As a matter of fact, Jim Cantaloupe was the team captain, was in my company. And, I know all those guys. And it was painful for them in that game. But, we haven't beaten Notre Dame, I think, since 58, 59. Class 59, 58 season. I'm not sure if I got that right. But, it's been a while. And we don't play them year in and year out like we used to. But Navy still does, and has knocked them off a couple times. But I would love to see nothing more. We're playing Wisconsin coming up this year. We played Oklahoma, Ohio State. I'd love to see nothing more than Army Notre Dame game get back on the schedule sometime soon. And I think the team would be up for it.
Yeah, almost. You thought it was almost going to happen in 2020, where Army lost most of its regular schedule, and they were going to schedule the Independents, and there was talk of playing Independents twice, each Independent twice. And Notre Dame, there might have been a chance to play Notre Dame this year, but they ended up finding other opponents to play, and ended up having probably a 9-win season out of not even knowing if they were going to play any games, at one point. So that tells you a little bit about, the Black Knights of today. What I noticed about this team is you were 8-3, right? And after the 3 games that didn't go your way, you guys came back and won the following game. So there was some, definitely some passion there, and some, like you said, you might have ate some humble pie, but you were able to rebound after the Notre Dame game, able to rebound after Air Force and Navy. And then I guess after the Navy game, there's some time there, and then you got the bowl game against Illinois. What was that like to be, to come off, maybe it didn't go your way against Navy, and then to have to bounce back against, right into a bowl game for you guys? You guys recall what that was like for you?
Yeah, Sal, just one comment. We ended up being 9-3 with the bowl victory. So it was the first 9-game winning season.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, neither here or there. But I love one of these other guys' comment, because the Navy loss did hurt. It was a Navy team that I think was 1-9 going into the Army-Navy game, and we were heavily favored. But we ended up being 9-3. So I'll have one of these other guys comment.
Although I would say about Navy, I think they were 2-9 or whatever it was that year, but he had, McCallum was their running back. I mean, he was their team.
Yeah.
But they had they played. So I think they were 2-9. Played a lot of tough teams, lost a lot of close games, and we ended up losing close maybe.
Well, the thing about the rivalry is, when you've had a shitty regular season and your last game potentially is against, in this case, Army, you can save your season by winning, so they definitely had the edge, when it came to that, so good for them. So they got to win. It is painful though. And for me in particular, I can still feel the pain in my knee. I've never had any, real physical issues, but Napoleon McCallum broke into the opening, and I was coming from the other side, and he cut back the other way, and I planted my right foot, and ended up going down with a torn piece of cartilage in my knee. So I bobbled into the Peach Bowl, which was a good thing because the guy that replaced me ended up being the MVP of the game. Anyway.
Yeah, but
Carl
what
Cronister, class
Yeah.
of 87.
yeah, but what Daryl doesn't say is that he played in that game and he was such a great punt returner that he fair caught all the punts, didn't fumble one. It was rain and everything, and he had separated his shoulder, I think, in the Navy game, and he came back and actually played and contributed in that game.
Hey, Buck, all but one. I can still hear JY yelling from the sideline because if you remember that game, it was raining cats and dogs. And I remember looking up, trying to see the football, and I couldn't see it because my eyes kept getting filled with raindrops. So I let it bounce, and of course, when you do that, it rolls 25 yards towards the goal line. And before the ball hit, JY started yelling. He yelled the whole time, including 5 minutes after I was sitting on the bench. About not catching not catching the punt. Oh my gosh, piece of work. Love that guy. Love Johnny Burnett too. It's just those relationships that they push you and they challenge you and they piss you off sometimes, but nothing but respect for those guys, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask anybody what it was like playing for Jim Young.
A treat, a real treat.
Pride poised team, yeah. And I said it earlier. Really, when you think about who we were, I mean, it was really us becoming men. Going from being boys to men, and understanding the responsibility we had to each other, to the team, and the discipline and the intelligence that it took to actually go into a winning season. And it was just one of those things where he had taught us so many things about life. We didn't realize they were about life. We thought they were about football. But the thoughts, basically the attention to detail and the focus and the intensity and the belief in us, as I talked about earlier, really transformed us from a incoherent bunch of athletes to a cohesive, effective team. And that's the type of those lessons we learned is how strong a team could be moving forward. The things that you can do when you have a team that has a focused mission and a focused objective. Nothing. We didn't feel like anything could ever stop us. And I think that's part of the bond we hold today is that us together, we remember what that felt like. Us together, focused on an objective, which was winning, really kind of laid the foundation. And Coach Young taught us all that. I mean, that's my perspective. Pride, poise, team. So that's what he taught.
Yeah. Hey, JY, I will tell you, we all revere JY. And he's tough. And he's candid. And he'll tell you, I mean, it's the definition of coaching. And Kurt, Sal, you need to ask Kurt to tell you the story. Because Kurt was our team captain our senior year, him and Donnie Smith. And Kurt, before a game at the quarterback luncheon there at the West Point Officers Club, said something to the effect, well, we're going to go in this game, we're going to try. And I'll let Kurt tell the whole story because he almost got himself in trouble at the Peach Bowl, but it's a great story. But JY, he could squeeze blood out of a turnip, and he still can. He's a student of military history. And he knew things about West Point that none of us knew because he researched it and studied it. As a matter of fact, he went back to the University of Arizona and got a master's degree in history after the fact. But he'd do things like put us in the auditorium the night before a game and make us watch The Dirty Dozen. But he would challenge you about leadership lessons, what you learned. You didn't just watch the video to get to watch the movie. There was a learning point. He'd make sure he extracted it out of you. But you can ask Kurt about what the leadership lesson he learned from JY.
Yeah, it was before the Air Force game, and it was a quarterback luncheon, and we'll get up. I say, hey, we're going to go out there and do our best. And then we ended up losing that game to Air Force. And then immediately afterwards, he called me in and goes, hey, that is so unlike you. You said we're going to go out there and try. What was that about? And I go, it'll never happen again. But he also had this thing about never talking too bad about your opponent, or never ever giving them ammunition to make them angry at you, and never get in their face type thing. Fast forward, we're at the Peach Bowl, and we're at this discotheque called the Limelight. And we're in there like with both teams, and there was an introduction of the team captain. So I get up there, and I said, "Hey, we had a great time tonight, but we came here for one reason and one reason only." And I turned and I put my finger at the opposing team captain. And I think it was Jack Trudeau, quarterback from the Illini. I said, "We came here to beat you, and we will beat you." And Coach Young was like horrified. Don't ever, do it. And then for Coach Young, after we ended up being victorious, he came to me after. He goes, "This is going to be my favorite West Point story of all time, because talking about it, and you guys, I knew you were going to win as soon as that you walked off the stage, but I was horrified that you broke the rules that I set down for you to achieve the other rule I told you, to always be confident in yourself and believe in yourself." So he loves telling that story. I don't know, he tells it better, but that's the story about the Peach Bowl game.
Yeah, I've got a quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember in JY too. I didn't think JY liked the defensive backs. I just didn't think he did. We were a pretty cocky group and everything, but I think he really did. But the one thing JY did, and the guys talked about it, was instilling discipline on the field. Just like Kurt was talking about, but it was also off the field. Because he demanded us to be good cadets first, and to be good students first, besides being good football players. And, like I said, I didn't think JY liked this, but, I remember a thought from my dad, who said, if your troops like you, you're not doing your job. So I think he epitomized that,
Yeah, I've got one quick story. Practices were brutal. I compare our freshman year to our senior year. Our plebe year, 2-a-days and preseason practice. You guys remember that. Our senior year was brutal. I would rather have been back in my room back in with the Corps Cadets than doing 2-a-days with JY. It was just that tough. The second thing is he was always prepared. He was so prepared that you never had to worry that you're not going to be in a position to win. But I'll tell you one little story that may not be that big of a deal to a lot of people, but it was to me. So my freshman year, when I was in high school, we had a very similar situation. They fired the head coach my freshman year, losing program. My senior, we won the state championship. I get to the academy freshman year, they fire the coach. I thought the program was in such bad shape that I didn't think, Bill Parcells had room for me to say, "Yep, I think this guy can pull it off." So my first impression was, I didn't have a lot of confidence we were going to be able to turn this broken program around. 2 months later, this was like January, now it's April, spring football, our freshman year. And I was out at a practice. I had to be on TV. So, I was a nobody. I doubt anybody knew my name. After a practice during spring football, I went up to the locker room, took my pads off, and I had the tape off my ankles. So I had a towel around my waist, and I'm walking down from our locker room downstairs to the training room. So as I'm walking down the stairs, I see the head coach walking up the stairs. And so I'm a little nervous. He's the head coach, and I'm nobody. So I thought, geez, it's a head coach. He's coming up here. So as I walk towards him, I'm trying to think what to say, "Coach, how you doing?" or whatever. And before I said anything, he walks right past me. Goes, "How you doing?" And so I froze. I didn't even answer him. I just froze up walking down the hallway. And when I got back, I turned around, I said, you know what? He must be talking about a varsity guy behind me. It can't be me. There's no way that this guy has been here 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and knows the 6-string safety's first name on JV. So I turned around in the hallway, and it was just him and I in that hallway that day. And I'm, believe it or not, that was the day in spring football, our freshman year, that I knew this program could win, because he was like that. It was something that small, but it was so significant that I thought, yeah, even though we had a tough year, this first year was tough, but there was no doubt in my mind that this was the right guy.
The head coach discovered Pavic, and he was going to take it to the promised line. That's how Doug knew we were going to win. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
It's all good. It's all good in the hood.
Yeah, just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how, I echo the respect factor with Coach Young. I've been to a couple of the Army alumni golf outing socials Friday nights in the summer, and I believe I was at one when he was there. He might have been going into the Hall of Fame that year. I'm not sure, the Army Hall of Fame. And man, everybody wanted to talk to the guy. Everybody had the respect factor for him, and I think I got a chance to talk to him a couple times, and man, just the amount of knowledge that he was able to tell me a little bit about West Point, and a little bit about the background he had, and how he was able to get teams like your teams to win was just like wow. You tell definitely top-notch guy. Just wanted to ask you guys, going to those Army socials in the summer, talk about the lessons that you learned at West Point as a cadet and as a football player help you in military life, and beyond that, and beyond into the also when you go out into the working class, so to speak. Do you guys echo that? Do you have any experiences that really kind of helped you in military, or maybe it was from like a Coach Burnett or a Coach Young, maybe something that you guys might have learned that got you through sometimes?
Sal, I'm going to echo something from a guy from a class of 85, from the 84 season. And as a matter of fact, guys like Bob Silver up on the net watching this today. But Nate Sassman, after he graduated in 1985, who was a defensive back, started as quarterback, was defensive back, then was, the first wishbone quarterback we had, said he learned as much about leadership on the fields of friendly strife playing for Jim Young as he did in the classroom. And I echo that. I mean, you learn so much about leadership, dealing with adversity, with tough times, about the teamwork. So that's definitely there. But going back to those meetings or those socials like that, I think Buckner and Londo and Kurt and Striff, who jumped off the net, and Coach Burnett all stayed at my house when I was the commandant. We went there for the one when JY was there, I think. But absolutely, I can go into little tiny stories day in and day out, but it's the culmination of all that and that experience of playing Army football and being part of the brotherhood, which lends itself so well. I mean, the stakes are much higher in combat in the military than they are playing an athletic game, but the parallels are so numerous between playing football, a team sport, and being a soldier in the Army and being a leader. So, these guys probably come up with some specific examples. I go on all night long, but, my point is you learn a lot in athletics that lends itself very well to being a soldier.
Hey, JT, I'll just say, and to pile on the point Matt made earlier, I think JY sincerely was more interested in just developing character and developing leadership in all of us than he was in winning football games. He truly loved being at the academy and took that role that you just mentioned of being a developer of leaders, really seriously. And he was so prepared in so many think back of all of the team meetings that we had where he was quoting some general or referring to some battle or Shakespeare. Remember that? I mean, that was, I obviously didn't pay very good attention in that English class because it got halfway through the, to be or not to be before I knew what the hell he was talking about, and everybody else seemed to have picked it up sooner. But, just little things like that. And to your point about, I think all of those lessons, I can't think of anything that he talked about and reinforced and how he managed a football team, that hasn't carried over directly into my life as a business leader. What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve, just and having the vision and all of that stuff that we went through and made fun of, quite frankly, for a couple of years. But now you think about those things, and that was quite profound. It was cutting edge. And I think those things also help make a difference in terms of putting together a winning program and developing leaders of character. I think, and that's what I'm most grateful. I remember Buckner, I think when we went to the White House one time, he's like, well, I'm not going, I'm done with football. I'm, thinking about my Army career now. And I think that was the right attitude. But I think less of Army football, the X's and O's. I think of the team outings and the relationships that we developed and how we fought and won together. And I've leveraged that my whole life. Over.
Yeah. And Daryl and I, we got out of the service, but in the civilian world, being a leader in the civilian world, I mean, even like Ranger School and stuff. I mean, I lost 40 pounds in 58 days, but playing Army football was much harder, 2 days or 3 days, whatever you call them, than anything I went through in Ranger School. And some of these guys, JT and Kirk, probably vouch for that. So physically and mentally, we were prepared for almost anything. And these guys that were combat leaders who did a great job with their troops can say that as well. But in the civilian world, one of the things I think Daryl hit on, it was even one of the things he taught us. I guess it was, I forget what season it was, maybe before our sophomore year, maybe junior, was this visualization. We had to go into the gymnasium and he had these different letters and numbers and stuff on the wall, and we had flashlights. We'd turn off the lights and we'd have to point to these different letters. So go to T, right? When guys remember going to T, just to relax and be able to focus, and get back in the game. That mental, that visualization has really paid off for me. I mean, it paid off when I was in the service as an infantryman and being able to see the battlefield and visualize that, when I had the chance to lead a company and stuff, to even in civilian world, being able to visualize different things or outcomes and being able to communicate that vision to your your teammates and stuff and lead that way. So that's just something that I got out for football that JY was instrumental in, that I really appreciate and could relate to military and civilian career.
Kurt or Doug, is there anything that you like to add?
Yeah, I just had this, we had JY was just put on a clinic in leadership. I mean, it was absolutely broken, and there was not. So he all the program, but I would say that at that time we had a stack team. We had a great superintendent at the time. Carl Ulrich was the athletic director. Was a great leader. Jim Young, our coaching staff, the assistant coaches. We had a great group of folks, coaches, administrators, superintendent, and there was just a relationship with the team that it's hard to explain. I don't know if it's because we were winning or because we had such a challenge turning this program around that everybody became very close. And we had a unique relationship across that group, and there was a lot of trust and a lot of confidence, and really everybody stepped it up.
From my perspective, JT hit on a couple of things. It's interesting. obviously visualization was huge for us and learning how to play as a team. But I thought one of the greatest lessons learned from Coach Young and his staff, the way he ran his organization, the way it was a tight ship. But on the team, he was able to find folks who didn't necessarily come to West Point to play a specific position and put them in the right spot so that they could excel. So he talked about Nate Sassman, who started as a defensive back and wound up being a great option quarterback. Or my favorite story of all time is taking a guy like Doug Black, who was cut twice from football before he got there, and ends up being the leading rusher for NCAA as a fullback his junior and senior year. If you think about that talent for identifying just the best athlete and then putting him in the position versus the other way around, that's a lesson I think I've learned in terms of business. You know, we're always looking for the best athlete that has the energy and that high level of intelligence, that want to learn, they want to do it, and then figure out a way to get them in a spot that makes sense for the team. And that's the way great organizations run too. I believe, you know, if you look at it, and JT, I'd love to hear about it from your perspective from the Army, but somebody doesn't necessarily fit in this certain lane, but they sure as heck can perform, you know, and just give that athlete that opportunity to some of the things that Daryl and Doug and Matt were talking about, given the opportunity to succeed in a different area where you can excel. And if you look at our team, nobody was playing any position. Tight ends went to linemen, linebackers went to fullbacks. You know, defensive. It changed a lot. And I thought that ability to see beyond what somebody says, well, hey, I'm a defensive back. Well, no, we think we can bulk you up and make you a linebacker. Or, hey, I'm a defensive back and I could be a quarterback. It's crazy. He had that capacity to fill the organization fill those gaps based upon the need of the organization, and the team we surrounded itself and got strengthened by it.
Do we have a Coach Burnett update? Will he be joining us?
Sal, I've heard nothing further. I will counsel him later. He counseled all of us through life. Now I can counsel him for a change.
Well, I guess we can wrap it up here. Just asking you guys if you want each one of you your favorite memory as an Army football player, maybe a specific game or a specific moment, and then we'll wrap up this podcast. But I appreciate everybody's time.
Mine is actually the lack of memory. And these guys probably don't remember this, but I think when Kurt was still a DB, you know, we were all on the whatever that team was called, the scrub team, and playing defense against the first offense, and we played like it was a game. I think we set the tone, and they were just kind of going through the motions, but. So I gave the starting running back, I can't remember his name. He was a captain on the other side. He was Mike Williams' counterpart, but I gave him a deep thigh bruise that he had all year because I hit him in the thigh with my helmet. But I got paid back because I met the fullback at the line of scrimmage, and he put the top of his helmet through my face guard. I think Kurt and Gene Benner were trying to pull it off my face. It smashed my nose, and I'm laying in the hospital, intensive care for 3 days, massive concussion. And I remember waking up one afternoon, and Doc Ryan and Colonel Barry were at the end of my bed, and they were talking about kicking me out. You know, like obviously I couldn't be a cadet, you know, because I was like a vegetable, you know. And I remember Colonel Barry saying to Doc Ryan, he said, you know, hey, it's a good kid from the Midwest. You know, let's give him a chance. You know, careful what you write in his medical file. You know, let's see what things look like, you know, tomorrow. Well, as it turns out, you know, fast forward like 3 years, I was an aviator, so I had to pass a class 1 flight physical. There was nothing about that concussion in my file, thank goodness. And and in all fairness, I never actually did black out. I just was completely knocked out and had lost my mind for 3 days. So, that's my best story. But I think the point that somebody made earlier just wasn't us players. I mean, it was a solid coaching staff. It was a staff of support personnel that all got behind and with, JY, that set this organization up for success, and we all worked together.
Daryl, his name is Gerald Walker, number 48.
That's who it was, Gerald Walker.
Yep.
Yeah, so my memory is kind of similar to yours, Daryl. I guess if I had one memory that stands out, it's a Coach Burnett story. So it was our sophomore year before we went and played Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. Thursday night practice and stuff. I had the stomach flu and was throwing up at practice. Couldn't keep anything down. So we're leaving the next morning early. Coach Burnett, after practice, takes me to the hospital, admits me to the hospital. I'm out of it. They stick IVs in me and stuff and hydrate me. And it was like 7:30 in the morning. Coach Burnett comes and checks me out of the hospital and gets me, takes me to the bus, and sure enough, I'm like, Coach, man, I'm got IVs and not for long, because I was on that bus and I got on the bus and on the plane and went to play. And I was just dehydrated. And wouldn't you know it, Coach Burnett put me in the game. I was a sophomore. I wasn't any good, but he put me in the game, I think, as a point to just say, and I think the only play I was in or two, I got hit in the back and clipped and 15-yard penalty, and he took me out. I think as a point of just saying, I want to prove to you or make you know that you can be tough and you can go through anything. So that's a Coach Burnett story, and that's one of my favorite memories of Coach B.
Oh man.
Doug, do you have a favorite moment?
Yeah, if it's a favorite moment, I guess just in general, that turned the program around. I mean, that was, everybody talks about, lifelong, lifelong fact, but turning the program around from the program it was into the program it became and still is now. There's some gaps between, but by and large, that program that exists now is pretty much the program we put in place in 1984. So I think just generally that's being part of that program that we climbed the steep hill to make that turnaround in basically a year. I think that's what's most significant to me.
Yep.
Absolutely, there's a lot of similarities between you guys and the current the current run that Army's on. JT or Kurt, would you like to chime in with a memory?
I'll jump in here. Earlier we mentioned 2-9, our yearling year. We were 2-9. I mean, we lost to Harvard. It was very, very embarrassing. Lost the season opener to Colgate. So the 1984 season, and I give all the credit to the class of 1985, those seniors that provided some leadership. But we went down to Tennessee. We smoked Colgate in the season opener, 48-6. But we didn't really believe in ourselves yet. We went to Tennessee, to Neyland Stadium. And General Neyland is a West Point grad. Stadium's named after him. And they had over 100,000. I think it was the third largest stadium. And Coach Young had us believing in ourselves. And we thought we could play with them. And they were ranked, I want to say, around 11, 12 in the season or in the preseason polls. We ended up tying them 24-24. And there's no such thing as a moral victory. But going down to Tennessee and tying them on their turf really got us believing in ourselves. And I think that was a big turnaround to the mid-'80s, getting that thing turned around. But Sal, you are a student of the game. You are a great analytical person. You're also a great, from the human side of understanding sports. And I just want you to know something about Doug Pavick. He came up with a new statistic while we were playing that you don't track. And you track every statistic there is. And you're an expert on them. But Pavick came up with this thing called the JOP, jump on pile. And he is the all-time Army leader in JOPs because he was trying to get credit for tackles. So I just wanted to get it out there before he talked about it. And then I'll turn it over to Kurt.
Yeah, nice one, JT. That's your wheelhouse, man.
I'm going to
good.
start tracking that stat. 2021 season, I'm going to start tracking that JOP stat.
Hey, not to be outdone by one of the consequences of our swarm. We were always the last to the pile, and I just want to apologize again to Larry Biggins because I think me and Matt, gave him more more bruises to the kidneys and the back, just coming in late. Oh, I just laughed at the many times that we would get up and you would say, "God darn, guys, ease up."
We were just hard of hearing.
Too funny. Too funny. Bring it home, Kurt.
Oh, I just think about the things that you guys used to do, and dare I say I used to do, are basically illegal now. Lead with the head, just come in, spear. So everybody got hurt all the time. I don't know how many. Every one of us have multiple concussions, and it used to be one of the classic cases of Gene Brenner, who was our trainer, who just was so tolerated nobody. Hey, you got a concussion, sit down, take a knee. Break smelling salt in your nose and say, "You ready? All right, get back in." And then you'd invariably go to the wrong huddle or something, or just stuff like that. My memory, favorite memory of playing football for me personally, stems out of what Daryl and Matt was talking about, which is basically visualization. It's kind of first time it had clicked for me. We were playing Air Force, and I had rehearsed these. I had gone through and looked at the films and read through their playbooks over and over and over again. First play of the game, they threw a screen pass in their end zone, and it was almost like I saw it coming. I was like, in my mind, like, I cannot believe you're doing this. I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying. And anyways, I was able to make it the tackle in the end zone for 2 points, but it wasn't me out there. It was the visualization and Coach Young and Johnny Burnett and Jay Robertson drilling it into us. I didn't feel like I was even playing. My body just went there with the lessons that I had learned. It was the team. We were in it together. I had seen it. So that visualization that Matt and Daryl and Doug were talking about was just paramount, I think, and basically for me changed the way I approach things in so many different aspects of my life. Visualization. If you can conceive it, you can believe it, you can achieve it, that type of thing, what Daryl was saying. Anyway, that was my favorite memory in junior year, and only time I was able to score 2 points.
There you go. Hey, it's been a great time, guys. Really appreciate it. I always enjoy these conversations because I started really following Army football around 2007 as a beat writer, and to hear these stories of the past and very successful teams, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to have to get Coach Burnett on to probably do his own podcast, right? Probably. I don't know. What do you say, guys? I mean, maybe we'll have a couple of you guys back on with him and tell some more stories.
Well, Sal, I got to ask you this question, and maybe the other guys will chime in, but how is it that guys like Coach Johnny Burnett and Coach Jim Young can remember not just a game, but a specific play, a specific time, a down? They can remember it like that. I mean, their minds are so sharp to this day. And Johnny Burnett's like that. You remember that? Hey, Kurt, you remember that time on third down? I go, Coach, I don't even remember that game. What are you talking about? But I would love for you to drill down to find out what makes that coach. I mean, that's a show by itself. How do they retain that amount of knowledge? It's mind blowing, and the strength of their mind is awesome.
Absolutely. We have to just, I don't know, JT, how do we get Coach Burnett on this podcast? How do we do that?
Oh, I'll work that with you. I think he's committed. He'll get on here. And like I said, he touches a lot of classes over a decade and a half. But I think you should get a panel up here. Get Jay Robertson and Bob Sutton and JY and Coach Burnett. Let a bunch of players ask them questions. They might be
That'd be
listening
awesome.
right now. We'll challenge them.
That'd be incredible, guys. Again, I really appreciate you guys popping on tonight. A little reunion of the 1985 team that won the Peach Bowl and had a very successful season. Really appreciate the time, and been great catching up with you guys. Hope to do this again soon. You've been watching the Black Knight Nation podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Black Knight Nation podcast with your host, Sal Interdonato. For more information on your Army Black Knights, visit BlackKnightNation.com. And be sure to subscribe, follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app.